It's Sunday, so I'm getting everything done today. So we just did the 205 video. I think it's about time we did a in-depth what makes this thing work. Not that it works really well at the moment, but we'll get there. Get it up on the ramp and show you what we've been doing to it. But this is, of course, our Group-D Audi S1. Just looks like nothing else. And the Workmeisters, 17 by 9.5 in the front, 18 by 10 in the rear, big 5-banger inside, as I'm sure you know. I can take a look at the interior here. Well, it's much easier to access. So, nice collapsible column from the US&A. Simple flat steering wheel with Group-D buttons on it. Button controls, just got them custom made. Ignition here, starter here. Power steering on off there. Lights here, interior lights, which never got fitted, but whatever. Anti-lag button here, that's the one everyone loves. Launch control, not done in the car either, but we have the option. Power steering is charging up there, as you can hear. Party mode, that is high and low boost. Wipers, which never got fitted also, and radio back to the pits, which has never been used because this is a demo car so far. The dash is telling me low oil pressure, but of course it's not running. New to this machine is the DMA gearbox, so that was something we got in for testing. Excuse the big lump of a box we made just to get the lever working. Group-D handbrake, of course. Joist sump tank over here, quite large, I think 1.5 gallons inside that. Haltech 2500, fuse box for the Haltech, extra fuse box. You see the water lines running through the car. Sparko seats in here. Fire extinguisher, of course. The pedals are, it's gone dirty in there since last day. Fly-by-wire throttle, which maybe you can hear the clicking of the throttle outside. Yeah, been doing a lot of messing around with the fly-by-wire and still have some to do just to get the feel correct. Pedals are moved around to fit, but in here you have a servo from an S14 and a master cylinder for an S14, and then you have the clutch cylinder, which is obviously got to be the correct size for the hydraulic release bearing in the bell housing. So, camera mount up there, not that that's interesting. You see the ducts. Oh, you can see how bad the tint is now coming off. The ducts into the radiator just to keep a low, to prevent a low pressure area forming in the boot. We force some air through the system, through the back of the car, just to feed the rad. The dash is IC7 from Haltech. My favorite dash, to be honest. Multiple pages on it. Here we have focus. Here we have like every sensor on the car, so if I press the throttle you could probably see things moving. That's for diagnostics. Here we have my secondary page. So I have actual voltage and I have what the ECU thinks the voltage is. See a tiny discrepancy already. EGTs every cylinder. That's very good information to have on any car. So 5-cylinder, injector duty, ignition angle, coolant temp, trigger errors, 2 for some reason, oil pressure, sync level, just kind of stuff you wouldn't normally have on a dash is here on the second page. And then we go back to the main page. Water temp, oil temp, air temp, and wideband. So all my temps are here, and then my pressures are here. So oil pressure, fuel pressure, battery voltage, and boost. Fuel level is on a percentage, and the gear, that also works. Let's see if yeah, dogs are lined up, so let me go into first. Speed underneath that, never bothered getting it running. It does have GPS in the corner of the dash there, but never bothered to get it going so far. And of course this revs to 77. Unfortunately, that's the only thing that I really don't like with the 5-cylinder, is this one at least being a 2.7. It won't rev high, but I do have a plan to fix that eventually. So yeah, that's the interior. Door cards, just very simple, made up. I have fiberglass doors being made for this right now, still on the steel doors at the moment. But yeah, it's different for sure. It's pretty cool though. Looks cool from here. So let's get it into the ramp and let's turn it off first. And let's get it into the ramp so we can take a look underneath and I can show you all the bits and pieces of what we've done to this thing. Pikes Peak wing on the back, still with the Group B air divider, so that puts half the air up under the spoiler and it puts half the air into the radiator in through here, rear mounted radiator. So that's pretty cool. Of course, it's not a short wheelbase, it's a long wheelbase, so it's got the 11 inches in the back window that the short wheelbase didn't. Then the Group B fender had to be cut and 11-inch piece made and put in and then smoothed off. So that was done. The brakes, Willwood for the handbrake here, GTR for the foot brake there, 5x114 obviously because it has an S14 rear end in it, but we'll see that in more detail on the ramp. And GTR front brakes as well. A little bit dirty, isn't she? Okay, as I said, no wipers yet. That went out the way, out of the plan. Once the engine went back through the firewall, get rid of the wipers. But let's get it up on the ramp and I'll show you what we've done to this thing under the bonnet and underneath. Right, up on the ramp, let's take a look. Starting in the rear, this is clearly a Sylvia subframe, S14s to be specific, mounted into the back of the Quattro body. Still all Quattro there, or coupe. This actually was an Audi coupe. And yeah, so mounted in. You can see the washers. Adjusting the subframe height, that's something I'm playing with at the moment, is adjusting roll centers front and rear and changing the roll couple, roll axis. Just trying to wake this thing up. It is a little bit lazy, so just playing with the roll centers front and rear to try and find the sweet spot for it. I do believe that cars have an operating window and once they're inside it, you kind of get away with murder a little bit, but if they're outside the operating window, then you're in deep shit. And this thing still isn't transitioning nicely for me. Just the balance just isn't there. So more testing, more time. We got to play with it. Basics: GTR diff, V-spec, drive shaft shop, shafts. I have a Bulldog quick change for this, which we'll be getting at some point when I have time. One-way BCs at the moment, just keep it simple for testing, not introduce another element of unbalance by having multi-way shocks. You know, just keep it simple, stiffen it up, soften it up, and get the balance of the car right before you introduce very trick dampers into the equation. 22mm bar, 22 or 24, one or the other. Some anti-squat adjustment on the front mount. I think that's everything in the rear. This is a knuckle customized, but based on a GK Tech knuckle. The brakes again, using the Willwood floating disc. It's only a 12mm thick solid disc, and that has GTR caliper for the foot brake and the big Willwood caliper for the handbrake, just to give me the handbrake feel that I like. You can lock the back wheels on this and the 240 at any speed with the same kind of effort. It's just so consistent. That's it, I think, for the rear. Any questions, let me know. Moving forward, big steel prop heading to the beautiful DMA 5-speed sequential, which comes with an adapter for QuickTime bell housing, but our friends at LexiBrake made us this adapter to go to the Volvo bell housing, which goes to the 5-cylinder. Excuse the gearbox mount. This was lastminute.com to get the gearbox in for testing. The original braces here goes across the car and across the floor inside, and the gearbox that this car was originally designed for sat on top of that, so this will all change once I get some time. Moving forward, this is the tubular subframe for the front that we made to allow us to fit some Wisefab trail suspension into the front of it. So you have the V2 arms, V1 knuckles that are modified. Again, a BC single way damper, just to keep things simple for testing. Again, got this reinforcement piece from the tube frame down to where the tension rod mounts. The subframe is mounted on these standing tubes and mounted to the original place in the car. This thing's having a hard time focusing. All triangulated and trying to stop this point out here, which is quite far forward, and levering, just trying to stop it from flexing while using the original mounts. You can see washers being stacked again, adjusting the roll center and roll couple, roll axis, trying to get this thing just to wake up. Looking at here, this is the IS200 steering rack that we run now in all the rear rack cars that we build. The knuckle, GTR discs and calipers once again. IS200 rack, as I said. You can see more washers stacked here. Why won't this focus on anything? And taking a look from the front, you have the alternator sitting underneath here. Peterson dry sump pump there. This is your return to oil return from the turbo into the pan, and double scavenge here. Another scavenge at the back that actually loops around and goes forward. One interesting thing is that is the crank sensor right, where's my finger? Right there. And you can see the tooted section on the flywheel. That's where the crank position is picked up on the engine. It's I think 36-2 on the flywheel, and then the sensor is tapped through the block just in front of the bell housing. It's actually quite a nice way to do it, since it keeps anything off of the front here and no wiring running down to a sensor off of the crank pulley. Worked out really well. Oil cooler here in the front. Excuse the untidy plumbing because I did put 2 in, but I wasn't happy, and since I've changed to a different grade of oil, and I'm much happier with the oil temps since changing grade, so we went back to the single cooler. The Peterson oil filter relocator is here. There's a feed for the turbo taken off there. Again, this was done a little bit kind of twice. And from underneath, there's the turbo intercooler. There's the big 4-inch exhaust with the screamer merge into the teardrop. Group B front dam with 1-inch bumper bar tube, air filter coming the whole way across the back of the intercooler and out to cold air feed into where the indicator would have been. And yeah, from underneath, I think that's kind of it. So that's a better look at the tubular front that we made for it. And going back, still all the original Audi floor each side. So yeah, I'll leave it down and I will show you under the bonnet where the real magic is. Right, so this is the business end of the Audi, the famous 5-cylinder, world famous. I think this car would be nothing without the noise it makes. Just captures so many people's attention, captures their heart, same as the cars from 85. It's just the noise of the 5-cylinder is incredible. This is a 2.5 TDI block with a custom crank, rods and pistons up to 2650 cc's. Group B rally car spec head. It's actually an AAN head, which is later spec but similar. Ported and polished. Intake and exhaust side. I think 2mm oversized valves, something silly like that. Mega huge camshafts. Single pulley, twin cam, second cam driven internally by a chain, also which is vernier adjustable on the inside under the valve cover. We also modified the back of the cam for a home signal for the ECU. Fueling wise, as new 1400cc injectors, 5 of them. This plenum that I found in Norway, 70 or 75mm GM driver wire throttle. There's a new fuel filter here. There's a Turbo Smart fuel pressure regulator there. KW canisters there from the KWs that were ran on it. There's your breather for the dry sump system. Goes out through the bonnet. Brake vacuum assist running down, and also brake vacuum coming from the intake into the servo and then being topped up with the anti-lag on, topped up by an electric vacuum system. Yeah, that is not optimal, but it works and it's okay for a demo car at the moment. This bunch of snakes, 5-cylinder manifold, Turbo Smart 50mm gate, 5 thermal probes giving me the EGTs you saw on the dashboard. These are covers for the shock tops. Shock tops are floating underneath off of the roll cage, the roll cage comes through to the back of this and has its own plate which mounts the shocks to it. Sylvia shocks mount underneath this, covers it, tied in a little anti-spin mount for the MAC valve for boost control, 5 Marine MA1 coils. What else have we got here? Chassis mounted engine mount. That is an original aluminium Quattro mount, then with a bush off it. We have individual cylinder tuning capability on the dyno on all 5 banks, all 5 cylinders I should say. There we have our combined lambda post turbocharger. This is something we had to put a flexi in here, and the anti-lag keeps blowing them out with heat, so this piece is now a replaceable part, serviceable part, rather than removing the whole manifold again. 3-inch intercooler, Garrett core, Garrett in tanks, fabricated in-house. I'm amazed by this. The IATs are really low, so it's a 30 Garrett 3770 G3770 turbo, which is quite small, running it up to 2 bar of boost. Even with that, the IATs are quite low. amazingly, with a small turbocharger, only 18 inches across. Pretty happy with that. These pulleys always rust on me, I guess. With the bonnet, the engine sticking out through the bonnet doesn't help. This one had to be modified for the stroker block, the tall block. This is a water pump, but the impeller is removed, and it is just an idler for the belt. Peterson R4 pump, driven by a cog in behind the timing belt. That would have been the original oil pump gear location, but it has this flat plate instead. Got a fluid damper for a 5-cylinder, which is quite rare. The crank is also converted to neutral balance because the 5-cylinder crank was balanced via the bottom pulley originally, and then when you get a fluid damper you need to rebalance the assembly, which was quite tricky and took forever, but seems to have worked perfectly. The engine is really smooth. And yeah, it makes 635 horsepower right now on the 3660, which is pretty much that turbo maxed out, heading for 2 bar of boost. It's really going to run out of efficiency, or on the way to running out of efficiency. We will change this setup in the future. I have some plans. I want more power. I need more RPM. Currently only, as I mentioned earlier, 7,700 RPM, which is even pushing this 100mm stroke engine. The piston speed, I think, is already 5 or 8 meters a second more than a 2JZ running at 8,000 RPM. So the piston speed is getting quite high. You get to a point where the conrod will go down and leave the piston up at the top situation, which is never going to be good. But engine has been perfect since we built the car. It is powerful, but the spec needs to change a little bit. I'd like to bump up the compression ratio on it more and make it a bit sharper and drop the boost a little. All these things will come in time. It's been really difficult to get this engine together. It has big oversized ARP head bolts. It has full billet main caps, a full crank girdle as well, so revving it to 77 is working fine, but the work we've put into this engine has been crazy, so it would want to be working fine. I don't see anything else of interest. That is her. Looks pretty cool. Alternator down here having an awful time in the heat, but things are working out. Little turnbuckle there that keeps it tensioned. Everything belt wise has been really well thought out by us, so huge engagement on the alternator, never slips. Dry sump belt cannot come off no matter what. That's where the IATs are coming from. Put them here just inside the throttle body, just for ease of wiring more than anything. The loom is tiny. Here is also a great position for IAT. You can argue all day long where you should have it, but yeah, that is her. That's the breather, as I said. The dry sump tank breathes into it, so the lines come out here. This big dash 1290 here goes into it. Also the gearbox breathes into it. There's our fuel. Here you have the trusty mechanical oil pressure gauge that we run on all of our builds. That tells us everything's okay, even though the electrics might be fucked. This is the rear with the boot removed. There's the boot, and you can see the divider much better, like I was talking about. So it divides the air, half of it to the radiator, half of it to the wing. It's just iconic on its own. Bang, the back of it, Pikes Peak wing. Inside here, Mishimoto dual pass radiator mounted at about 40 degrees on a tube underneath it. You have the Red Top 40 battery. Run these in all turbocharged kind of cars. 90% of cars get these. Got the GM power steering pump in there. We have our jumping posts for our battery, as we can't get to it, just in case we need to give her some voltage. Expansion bottle for the radiator. It's just a cap with an overflow. This is the breather for the fuel tank. The fuel tank is all the way down inside there, which you can't see. And then you have the nuke filler here, which is absolutely glorious, which I can't open right now for some reason. Oh, there it is. Glorious piece of engineering for the filler. And yeah, the pipes go forward. There's the electric water pump and the two pipes that you've seen in the interior earlier. And yeah, you've got the vent for the tank coming off of the filler there, and you've got a fill aid, we'll say. So this leaves the air escape from the tank while you're filling it, and it comes out the top while you're filling it. So yeah, nothing groundbreaking. All tubes keeping the whole thing together. Rear just round tube frame coming all the way to the back, but then the ass is separated into two pieces so that you don't shit the whole thing when you hit it. Please don't hit it. Original orange and red lights on it. The black lights would be nice, but whatever. It's still period correct. Had to make this little thing to stop the spoiler blades going up and down. You've got double naked ducts on the back window, along with the two singles each side. They pop through. That's them there popping through, and as I said, that prevents a low pressure area building here and the air going stagnant in the red, not getting enough air, and the fans not being able to do their job. But yeah, that's the back. Pretty simple and effective. That is in depth of the Quattro. Many things are going to change over the course of its life. I'm playing with some interesting ideas, very expensive ideas for this car. Next, I think, is to take the panels off it and really test it hard with some big changes and not be worried about anything. Have some offs and learn. The balance isn't there in the car, as I said. It needs a lot of testing, some adjustments made, and get this thing in the operating window and try and get it to handle, so we can be more confident with it and do some mad things with it with very little runoff area, high consequences if you go off, you know, rally stages, road runs, things like that would be amazing in it, but right now you'll be killed. But yeah, that's her. We'll continue the development. We'll touch on it again at a later stage, showing you more things we've done, more changes we've made. And yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Any questions, let me know. I'll try and answer all of them as usual, but that is RS1. And yeah, we will see you next time.